Picture two people drowning in the ocean. One starts swimming toward shore. The other doesn't grab them to be saved. They grab them to pull them back under. Not because they're evil, because drowning together feels less scary than drowning alone. That's your relationship with every broken person who needs you to stay broken. And right now, their hands are around your ankles. You thought you were in a support system. You're actually in a suicide pact, an unconscious agreement where everyone stays equally damaged, equally limited, equally drowning. And the moment you try to heal, the moment you reach for shore, they'll do everything in their power to pull you back under. Because your healing doesn't inspire them, it terrifies them. Tonight, I'm exposing the hidden psychology of dysfunction addiction. Why broken people create ecosystems of mutual destruction, and why your healing threatens to collapse their entire world. We'll explore the unconscious contracts you've signed, why dysfunction becomes identity, and what happens when you break the pact. Part 1. The unconscious contracts, the misery bond. When two broken people meet, they recognize each other instantly, not through words, through wounds. It's like two people with the same rare disease finding each other in a crowd. Pause. Take a breath. Think of that person right now, the one you trauma bonded with. Real scenario. You meet someone at a party. Within 10 minutes, you're both sharing your deepest wounds, like trading cards. I'll see your alcoholic father and raise you a narcissistic mother. By the end of the night, you're best friends. Not because you connected, because you collectively bled. This bond feels deeper than normal friendship because it is. You're not just friends. You're fellow survivors in the same war. And survivors don't leave each other behind. But here's what you don't realize. The bond isn't about healing from the war. It's about keeping the war alive. Because without the war, who are you to each other? The dysfunction ecosystem. Imagine dysfunction as a pond, a stagnant, toxic pond where broken people swim in circles. Everyone knows the water is poisoned, but it's the water they know. It's home. In this pond, everyone has a role. The perpetual victim who needs constant rescue. The endless rescuer who needs someone to save. The chaos creator who needs drama to feel alive. The wisdom dispenser who never takes their own advice. The broken mentor who teaches from pain, not healing. You all swim in the same poisoned water, breathing the same toxic air, speaking the same language of limitation. And it works. Everyone knows their role. Everyone knows the rules. Until someone decides to get out of the pond. The comfort of mutual destruction. There's a perverse comfort in shared dysfunction. When everyone's broken, no one has to feel inferior. It's like being in a support group that accidentally became a stay sick group. Real example. You call your friend crying about your toxic relationship. They respond with, "At least he texts you back. Mine disappeared for 3 days." Suddenly, you're competing for who has it worse. By the end, you're both convinced that suffering is just what relationships are. Here's the darkly funny part. It's like a reverse self-help group. Instead of, "Hi, I'm John. and I'm recovering. It's, hi, I'm John, and I'm absolutely not recovering, and neither should you. You compare symptoms, not recovery stories. You bond over medication, not meditation. You share war stories, not peace treaties. Stop. Right now. Think about the last time someone in your life shared good news. What was your very first thought? Be honest. And anyone who starts getting better, they're not inspiring. They're threatening the entire social order. They're the person who brought a salad to a junk food party. Nobody asked for that energy. The identity fusion. Here's the deepest level. For many broken people, dysfunction isn't something they have. It's something they are. Their pain has become their personality. Their trauma has become their LinkedIn bio. They introduce themselves through their damage. I'm Sarah, anxiety survivor and emotional trauma specialist. Translation: I've made suffering my entire brand. Here's a painful truth. How do you introduce yourself? Through your achievements or your ailments? Sit with that for a second. I knew someone who literally had beautifully broken in their Instagram bio. That's like having professional bleeder on your business card. When your identity is broken, healing means death of self. Take away the dysfunction, and they don't know who they are. They've built their entire identity on the foundation of their brokenness. It's like asking someone to change their name, face, and entire life story at once. It's dysfunction as a personality type, like being a Scorpio, but sadder and requiring more therapy. The unconscious pact. Without words, without contracts, without conscious awareness, broken people make agreements. I'll stay broken if you stay broken. I'll validate your dysfunction if you validate mine. I'll never outgrow you if you never outgrow me. I'll never heal in ways that make you feel sick. These pacts are signed in behavior, not blood. Every time you match someone's dysfunction instead of modeling health, you're signing. Every time you dim your progress to make others comfortable, you're signing. And the contract has one clause written in invisible ink. Anyone who breaks this agreement will be punished. Part 2. The identity of brokenness, when pain becomes personality. Imagine someone who's been in a wheelchair for 20 years suddenly being told they can walk. You'd think they'd be thrilled, but many aren't. Because for 20 years, wheelchair user has been their identity, their community, their story. That's what happens when dysfunction becomes identity. The broken person doesn't just have problems, they are their problems. And suggesting they could heal is like suggesting they could stop existing. They've spent years building relationships around their brokenness, creating narratives that explain their limitations, developing expertise in their own dysfunction, finding meaning in their suffering. Healing doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like annihilation. The Suffering Olympics. In broken communities, suffering is currency. The more pain you have, the more valuable you are. People compete. You think that's bad? Let me tell you about my trauma. At least your mother talked to you. Mine. That's nothing compared to what I went through. It's a race to the bottom, where winning means being the most damaged. And in this economy, healing is bankruptcy. If you're not suffering, you have no currency. If you have no currency, you have no value. Watch how broken people react when you share progress instead of problems. The room goes cold. The energy shifts. You've violated the rules of engagement. You've brought foreign currency to their economy, the trauma bond economy. Trauma bonds are the strongest bonds, stronger than love, stronger than blood, stronger than choice. Because trauma bonds are forged in survival, and survival trumps everything. In broken relationships, trauma bonding replaces real intimacy. No one understands me like you do, because we're both drowning. We've been through so much together, and we're still going through it. You're the only one who gets it, because we speak the same dysfunction. These bonds feel irreplaceable because they are. You can't trauma bond with healthy people. You can only trauma bond with people who match your wounds. When you heal, you're not just leaving a relationship. You're leaving a language, a world, an entire reality you've shared with someone. The betrayal of getting better. In dysfunction culture, healing is the ultimate betrayal. Because when you heal, you're basically saying everyone else chose to stay sick. And that's unforgivable. Real scenario. You start therapy and begin setting boundaries. Your broken friend says, "Must be nice to afford therapy. Some of us have to deal with reality." Translation. How dare you get tools I don't have? How dare you prove change is possible? If this is hitting too close to home, it means you're ready. Subscribe, because we're going deeper into why your growth terrifies them. They experience your healing as judgment. Like when you quit drinking, and suddenly your drinking buddies act like you've joined a cult. "Oh, so you're too good to have a beer with us now?" "No, Brad. I'm too good to black out in an Applebee's parking lot." There's a difference. You're not saying you're better than them. You're saying you want better for yourself. But in their mind, those are the same thing. Let that sink in. Their reaction to your healing tells you everything about their commitment to staying broken. The mirror of possibility. Here's the deepest cut. Your healing forces broken people to see their own choices. When you were both drowning, they could believe drowning was inevitable. When you start swimming, you prove it's a choice. Every step you take toward health is a mirror reflecting their decision to stay sick. Every boundary you set shows them their boundaryless existence is optional. Every moment of joy you experience proves that suffering isn't mandatory. You become a walking, breathing proof that their entire identity is built on a lie, that they can't get better, that they're permanently broken, that healing is for other people, not them. Part 3. The punishment for healing, the extinction burst. When you first start healing, broken people don't just resist, they escalate. It's like a toddler whose tantrum isn't working, so they scream louder. Psychologists call this an extinction burst, the frantic increase in behavior before it finally stops. Watch for sudden crises, right when you're making progress. Increased drama when you set boundaries. Health scares when you're getting healthy. Emotional emergencies when you're finding peace. Relationship chaos when you're finding stability. They're not consciously sabotaging. Their unconscious is in panic mode, pulling every lever to restore the dysfunction equilibrium. The guilt campaigns. When escalation doesn't work, they switch to guilt. And broken people are masters of guilt because they've been marinating in it their whole lives. They know exactly where your guilt buttons are because they helped install them. Real conversation that happens. You tell them you can't come to their 3 a.m. crisis call anymore. They respond, "I was there for you when your dad died." Pause. Feel that? That's a guilt button being pushed with surgical precision. They'll weaponize every moment of past support. Remember when I drove you to the hospital? I guess those late-night talks meant nothing. Sorry for being such a burden. Here's the dark comedy. They keep a mental spreadsheet of every favor they've ever done, but somehow forget all the times they've drained you dry. It's selective memory at its finest. They remember lending you $20 in 2015, but forget the 47 emotional emergencies they've had this month alone. Quick check. How many times have you been guilted into staying in dysfunction this week? Count them. That number? That's how many times you betrayed yourself. The replacement. Here's what really reveals the game. Watch how quickly they replace you with another broken person. Within weeks, they'll have found someone new who matches their dysfunction frequency. Someone new to trauma bond with, to swim in the pond with, to maintain the ecosystem. This proves it was never about you. It was about the role you played. They don't miss you. They miss having someone to be broken with. They miss the validation of shared dysfunction. They miss the enabling. The smear campaign. Some broken people go nuclear. They'll try to destroy your reputation in the community. They'll paint your healing as selfishness, arrogance, fake spirituality, superiority complex, abandonment of real friends. They'll recruit others in the dysfunction ecosystem to validate their narrative. And it often works because other broken people are terrified of the same abandonment. They'll side with the one staying broken because that feels safer. The hoovering. Just when you think you're free, they'll try to suck you back in. Like a vacuum, they'll attempt to pull you back into the dysfunction. They'll apologize profusely without changing. Promise to support your healing while subtly undermining it. Create crises that only you can help with. Use your history as leverage. Activate your savior complex. This isn't love, it's addiction. They're addicted to the dynamic you provided, and they're going through withdrawal. The final test comes when you're truly healed, when you can be around their dysfunction without being pulled in, when you can witness their chaos without participating, when you can love them without enabling them. That's when they'll either finally respect your boundaries and possibly seek their own healing, or completely cut you off because you're no longer useful. Either way, you win, because you're no longer drowning. You're no longer in the pond. You're no longer breaking yourself to keep others comfortable in their brokenness. Part 4. The liberation. Here's your assignment. Identify one relationship where you're being kept broken, where your dysfunction is being enabled, your healing is being sabotaged, your growth is being punished. Feel that contract in your body. Now, this week, break one rule of the dysfunction pact. Share progress instead of problems. Refuse to engage in trauma bonding. Set a boundary without explaining. Choose growth even if it means distance. Watch what happens. Watch the extinction burst, the guilt campaigns. But also, watch yourself getting stronger. Because here's the truth that changes everything. Broken people need you to stay broken, because your healing proves theirs is possible. Your light doesn't diminish theirs, it reveals it. But they have to want to see it, and many would rather close their eyes. You can't save someone who's committed to drowning. You can't heal someone who's in love with their sickness. You can't force someone to leave the pond. But you can save yourself. You can heal yourself. You can leave the pond. The broken will always need others to stay broken. It's how they survive. But you weren't born to survive. You were born to thrive. Let them keep their pond. You have an ocean to explore. If you're ready to break the pact and heal, regardless of who it threatens, subscribe.